Go.
Hey, welcome to Breaking the Fourth Wall. It's Chris Stolley with you again, and joining me is my favoriteest girl in the world of the internet, Miss Christina Talley.
How y'all doing tonight?
And it's just her and I tonight. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk a couple hours of some of the fun things that are able to be discussed. First and foremost, let's talk about it. Philly, you got a championship, ladies and gentlemen. This past Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, New England Patriots, Philadelphia Eagles, 41-33. Philadelphia Eagles got their first Super Bowl title in franchise history after 58 years. Christina, how's it feeling being back in the city of brotherly love?
I grew up in Philadelphia, so I don't live in Philadelphia now, but I did grow up in Philadelphia, and even I'm not a sports fan. At the same time, I'm very proud that the Eagles have finally broken the curse. The Phillies broke the curse. 8 years ago?
Yeah, 10 years ago,
10 years ago,
2008.
yeah. Now it's 10 years ago. I should know that my daughter was born then. But anyway, yeah,
So
the Phillies
fine.
finally broke the curse. Now the Eagles have finally broken the curse. And I couldn't be prouder for the Eagles or the city I grew up in. And now I'm going to say this one thing: Flyers, we're looking at you. Bring that fucking Stanley Cup home.
You know what? I was making that comment. I'm going to make it official now on here.
Sixers, no one gives a shit about you.
No, nobody cares. But you know what? I'm 41 years old. I just recently turned 41.
Oh,
In
fart.
my lifetime, since birth, in my lifetime, the Sixers in 1983 got their championship. The Phillies in 1980 and in 2008 got their championships. And now finally the Eagles got one this year.
Oh, what about
Flyers.
Brady being a complete salty bitch?
Oh, let's talk about that. But Flyers are my bucket list. In my lifetime, I want to see a Stanley Cup come home. When you won it last was before I was born. Give me a Stanley Cup.
And the funny thing is, you see, I'm wearing an Eagles jersey today. I did say in my next broadcast I was going to wear an Eagles jersey. I'm also going to wear this on my next episode of Trans Geek Girl I publish as well. So
There you
here
go.
it
So
is. I have a
as
jersey.
as advertised and as promised. So yeah,
Because here at Realm of the Mist, we generally keep our promises, and that involves money or personal favors.
more money than personal favors.
Depends what the personal favor is.
Well, if it's a favor that I find personally enticing, I'm keeping that promise. Um, but yeah, you're right. The Tom Brady thing. Basically, this is what happened when Tom Brady lobbed his Hail Mary, and it was a dead ball. It hit the ground, bobbled around. Nobody caught it. Eagles are the champions. Primarily, both teams will come out. The coaches will shake hands. The quarterbacks will shake hands, share a hug, congratulate each other. Tom Brady beeline for the locker room. Wanted nothing to do with Nick Foles or anybody of that nature. Absolutely disgraceful that people call this guy the greatest of all time, the GOAT, which, by the way, stupid.
I just think possibly he was going to the locker room because he was about to cry.
He probably was about to cry. I mean, he already looks like Caitlyn Jenner. You remember that picture where he had the long hair and the
I'm not
and,
even touching that one with. No, I'm not touching
as,
that.
well, let's put it this way. You know how much you hate Caitlyn Jenner? That's how much I hate Tom Brady.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, funny thing is, this happened to me today. I was on Facebook, and I do have friends who are Patriots fans. I mean, after all, no one's perfect. Everyone's got flaws, and some people are Patriots fans. But I had one friend that they even said, goes, I wish the Patriots won, but congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. You guys earned it.
Hmm.
Right there, when the fans show more class than their star quarterback, that says something right there to me.
Well, here's the major deal. I feel for the guy. I understand. He's 40 years old. He's had five championships. He's probably feeling like he's getting close to the end of his run. I get that. But he's also got to remember too. Okay, you're a little butthurt and a little salty that a starting star quarterback, the greatest of all time, got his ass handed to him by a second string quarterback.
First of all, there's a lot better fucking quarterbacks that have been out there than him in history.
Oh,
So,
oh, I absolutely agree. But here's my point. He's feeling salty that he got his ass handed to him by a second string quarterback. Not even our starter. It was Nick Foles, not Carson Wentz.
Because Nick
But
Foles is a good quarterback, though. That's just
oh,
because
I
he's second
absolutely
string doesn't mean he's shit. So let's be
no,
honest.
no, absolutely. I'm not dogging Nick in any way. I'm talking from Brady's perspective. Now, here's the point to the measure. How quickly we forget, Tom. I'm addressing you directly. That not that long ago, you were the backup quarterback to Drew Bledsoe. And when Drew went down is when you stepped up and you became the star of the team. How can you hate on somebody who basically is doing the exact same thing now that you did then?
Because he has one hell of an ego.
Mm-hmm.
I can answer that. The problem is he has a very inflated ego. Yet again, Philly's had their share of them. We've just managed to get him the hell out of there. Like a few years ago, what the hell is his name?
Cunningham, McNabb.
No, Cunningham. I'll give Cunningham credit where it's due. McNabb is who I was thinking of, or not McNabb. Frickin' he played with Nick McNabb. He was running back. Showboater. He got in trouble for showboating one game.
Not Westbrook.
Not Westbrook.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm talking about. He was a complete showboater. He got in trouble for it. He was the one who signed his contract and demanded more money because $200 million wasn't enough to feed his family.
Terrell Owens.
Yeah, T.O. Thank you.
T.O. Yeah,
Like I said, I don't follow football that much, so
wide receiver, not a running back. That's what was throwing me off. I'm like, she can't be talking about LaShawn McCoy.
No, I'm talking about T.O.
Owens.
I mean, like, he was a complete showboater, and we got rid of him. It doesn't matter how good you are. Like, with the Eagles, the thing I do like about the Eagles is no matter how good you are, if you don't work well with the team, you're out.
Well, we weren't always that way because we had one of the greatest players in football and was a complete team player. And going back to the days of Randall Cunningham, Cunningham is the reason why we lost this player to Green Bay. And that, of course, I'm speaking of the late, great Reggie White.
I had Reggie White's jersey, too. I will say that.
The minister of defense, the guy loved Philly. The guy loved the team, but he couldn't handle Randall's ego. Now, years later, Randall has become a very humble person, but back when he was playing for the Eagles, his ego was terrible. So the problem is his ego was justified because of how good of a player he was. Doesn't mean he should have had an ego, just I understand. But either way, we're kind of getting off topic here. The fact is that, what was it, 58 years we've waited for the Eagles to bring home a championship? Now, I know you're saying, but for non-sports fans, but Chris, it was Super Bowl 52. How could they have a championship in 58 years ago? Because the last time they won it was before it was known as the Super Bowl. That's why it's their first in franchise history. So congratulations, Philly. This Thursday is the parade right down Broad Street. I imagine we're going to be greasing up some more poles, and idiots will still figure out a way of getting up on top of it.
Didn't work very well last time.
No, not at all.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter how much Crisco you slide on a pole, a Philadelphia fan will figure out a way to get up it.
Well, let's discuss Philadelphia fans real quick before we get on to the other news of entertainment here, because this is something that, as a Philadelphian and former Philadelphian, we got to discuss, and that's the treatment of the Philly fans. And it's not some of it is justified, I will admit. Some of our fan base, like, we're known for throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. We're known for throwing batteries at players. We're known for throwing beer on Vikings fans.
Hey, they totally had it coming.
Absolutely. Usually. You don't want to hear that side, though. You don't want to hear that side of the story. You don't want to hear the instigation of the idiot New Jersey Devils fan in the middle of a whole bunch of Flyers fans, and then wonder why he was carried out in a stretcher.
Ooh,
you run your mouth, you're gonna get hit. I was
there for that.
Yeah, you're gonna get hit. You know, if you're an idiot Cowboys fan standing in the middle of the link.
I will say this for the record: that was the most glorious beating I've ever seen in my life. Like, I've never seen somebody take so many hits from so many different people. It was just. Like, imagine a scene from Airplane where they were trying to get the person to calm down and everyone was kind of lining up. Yeah, imagine that, but a lot more vicious and a lot faster.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. It was justified. It was the Devils fan that started it. Now, did it need to go to the extreme that it did? No, of course. I'm not going to say that person should have taken that epic of a beating.
But
But
you
you run
don't
your
walk
mouth, you're going to
into
get hit.
But you
There's
don't
going to be
walk into a
consequences.
bar shouting flyers into a Philadelphia bar while the Stanley Cup's going on, shouting, and I quote, "Flyers suck, fucking Devils rule,"
Yeah.
continuously. Because especially at this point, there's a lot of people who are a little tipsy, if not drunk, and their a bit like inhibitions are completely gone.
Look, there's a lot of drunks in Philadelphia. There are. I'm sitting here drinking beer right now. I'm not anywhere near drunk, but there's a lot of drunks in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the salt of the earth. Let's put Philadelphia and Philadelphia fans where they truly live. They are the salt of the earth. They are the blue collar workers of this country. There's not a whole lot of people that are above middle class, okay, in this city. They work hard, they love hard, they respect their teams hard, and they party hard. I'm not justifying bad behavior. That's what we're going to get into here with the celebration after the Super Bowl. But what I am saying is stop labeling all of Philadelphia by the actions of a few idiots. Let's talk about the celebration. Yes, you got to see it all over Facebook, all over YouTube. You got to see a bunch of idiots jumping on top of the Marriott's awning, I believe it was, and busting it down. You got to see one idiot goaded into going on his hands and knees and eating a pile of horse shit. You got to see one little scrawny white boy instigating a whole bunch of people to flip over a car. You got to see a bunch of idiots carrying a light post from Broad Street after they broke it off. Yes, it's disgusting. It's despicable. I don't understand why you would consider that celebratory. That's really just all in all sense of the words, vandalism. But that is literally 0.001% of the whole percentage pie that is the fans that were out there. The fact of the matter is that the celebration was actually extremely peaceful throughout the city, to the point that there was only 3 arrests for disorderly conduct throughout the whole entire city and celebration that night.
As I said before we started recording tonight, and I will interject this right now, which is actually a record for Philadelphia because there's usually a lot more than that in one night at Philadelphia.
Of normalcy, yeah.
So, if anyone's ever been to Philadelphia, they know it's not exactly the most friendly city in the world.
Look, all the cities that have ever had a sports championship, most recent one that I could think of, especially when they had to wait such a long time, the most recent one I could think of is Chicago when the Cubs won the World Series. You think they didn't have issues and vandals and rioters and looters because they were overly excited for waiting so long? What was it for the Cubs? 115 years they waited to win a fucking World Series?
Back to the Future was off by 1 year.
Off by 1 year. I'm still waiting for Jaws 19.
I will say one thing about fans, though, and misbehaving fans. So I would believe that the shame for shitty fans would actually not go to Philadelphia, even though there was damage. There was that car that was probably a couple more than just one car flipped over. People puke. But however, I will have to forward this to Amherst University.
Okay, go ahead.
Where they were Patriots fans, and they were so pissed they started rioting because they lost the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand that if Philly lost, there would have probably been riots too, but.
Well, hey, I could think back to.
But still, I mean, that just tells you, like, okay, fans are a little overboard, and not just in Philadelphia, even though we have the reputation for it. They are all over the place. I mean, this was Amherst University or Amherst College in Massachusetts, I believe it is, and they were. People actually got injured. They arrested quite a few people for disorderly conduct up there. Like, there was, like, hundreds of people, I believe. I'd have to look at the article again and see that, but, yeah, it was, I mean, that right there's where the shame comes in.
Well, I mean, again, I can look back to 1992, Montreal, the Metallica Guns N' Roses tour. You remember this, where James went up like a dry matchstick from a pyrotechnic, and Guns N' Roses had to take the stage, and Axl decided to walk off stage saying "fuck Montreal," and instigated a full-on riot. Now, you want to talk about disorderly conduct, where people got hurt, people got killed. Cars were being torched and flipped and things like a true riot scene and destroying the city. That was Montreal, not Philadelphia. Okay? The point being is that every city has their bad apples.
I believe, wasn't there riots in Texas, too, at one point because one of their teams won? In Houston?
I believe so.
Like a couple of years ago, and it was pretty bad.
I believe so. It wasn't the Cowboys, because last time the Cowboys won the Super Bowl, you can get the collector's copy of the Super Bowl win on VHS.
I think it was the Astros or something like that. I think it was Houston.
Oh,
I may be wrong.
Right.
Huh?
You're right. Yeah, you're right. The Houston Astros. Yeah. I forgot about that. Holy cow.
And yeah, that city took major damage from that. Imagine if Camden had a team, incidentally. Imagine how much of that city would be in fire afterwards.
It'd probably be an improvement. Sorry, Camden, but let's call a spade a spade.
Oh, come on. Let's see. Mischief Night, I think there's more fires in Camden and Trenton than anywhere else.
That's it. But again, it's an improvement. Toilet papering Trenton or Camden, New Jersey is like decorating a junk heap. You can't make it look any worse than it already is. But regardless of which,
you can't polish a turd, because even after you polish it, it's just a shiny turd.
I don't know. The Mythbusters proved that you could polish a turd.
But it's still a shiny turd.
Jamie Heineman made it look like a freaking brown cue ball. It was so shiny. But the end all of this story is this: to everybody outside of Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia is fiercely loyal to its sports teams. Win, lose, or tie, we bleed our teams till we die. We are fierce about our fan base, our fandoms to our teams. That does not make us bad people. Yes, there are a handful of people who go a little overboard with it. But don't judge the whole entire city or every person who walks around in an Eagles jersey or a Flyers jersey or Phillies jersey by the actions of a few that you get to see on social media. That is not Philadelphia. That is a bunch of retards who whose parents never taught them how to behave in public.
Yo, don't use that word, please.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Less than intelligent people whose parents never taught them how to behave in public.
Moron, stupid, also acceptable.
Fair enough. So, please, let the hate go and let Philly enjoy this moment, because it was a long time coming and a long time earned.
And it was earned, too. I mean, anyone who saw the game, like, I don't watch sports. I even caught part of the game when I was over at Red Robin. Yeah, I was enjoying myself a Royal Robin burger with some fries, watching the game for a little bit, and they earned that game. They were hungry. You can tell they were hungry, and they earned that game.
Absolutely. I mean, I said it to Jen's parents, that if the Eagles were not in that Super Bowl, just with the way that game was played, if it was not the Eagles in the Super Bowl, I could still make this statement. That was one hell of an entertaining game. It was back and forth the whole entire. It could have been the New England Patriots versus the Dallas Cowboys, and I still would have been entertained by how close and how competitive that game was. It was really one of the better Super Bowls. It just makes it that much better that it was my Philadelphia Eagles in it and winning it. But absolutely. Guys, again, I can't say it enough. Congratulations, Philly. You're
not going to clap? News. Really?
I'll golf clap, sure. Golf clap. See, we can be civilized in Philly. On to other entertainment news. During the Super Bowl, we had a little teaser, and then the following day, the trailer finally dropped to Solo, I hate this freaking title. Solo, a Star Wars story. Christina, did you see both the teaser and the trailer?
Of course I did.
And your thoughts?
I'll tell you something. Until I saw these trailers, I was like, either way I was going to go see it in the theaters. There's no way I wasn't going to go see it in the theaters. However, now I am truly excited to go see it in theaters because if the movie holds up to what these trailers just produced, the movie looks fucking amazing.
I'm right there with you.
Videocast. Sorry, Dave.
I'm right there with you. When I saw the trailer, I really had low expectations for Solo, and it's because of the fact that I am one of the people, like many, I didn't need a Han Solo origin story. I still am not a fan of Aaron Eisenreich as Han Solo. To me, he's just not looking the part. However, Crispin Glover, is that his name? Lando?
That's not Crispin Glover. Crispin Glover was Marty McFly's dad in Back to the Future.
Well, I know he's a Glover. I can't remember his first name. It's not Danny because that's I'm too old for this shit.
Hold on, let's go to Google. Hold on one sec. Got the trusty phone. We will do me a favor when you edit that, blur out the logo because
yeah,
we don't want to be sued by Apple Corp. I'll make it even worse. So we go to Google.
By overpriced garbage phone corporation.
Now we will get sued, you fuck.
Good, sue me.
Solo.
You can have 95% of my total annual income because
Donald Glover.
Thank you, Donald Glover. Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian looked phenomenal.
I'd like to see what Woody Harrelson's up to in this movie, incidentally.
Well, we did get a kind of a peek where we do get the idea that he is kind of the one that almost seems like he brought Han into the smuggling world with putting a team together.
And I will say for the record, okay, I've played Star Wars MMOs for a while. I've played Star Wars Galaxies, and I've played Star Wars The Old Republic. Thank you, Star Wars, for making one of my characters canon accidentally.
Which one?
Kira.
Who?
Kira. Kira. Kira.
Oh, Kira?
Yeah, Kira is one of my characters in... Used to be in Old Republic before they did the first server merge. But Kira was also one of my characters in Star Wars Galaxies, which happened in time phrase-wise between Episode 4 and Episode 5.
Okay.
So you technically accidentally made my character canon.
Yeah, right on. But Chewie looked great. I love the fact that we see them Falcon looking like it just came off of the showroom floor.
I do have one issue with the Falcon.
What's that?
What the hell is in the front clip? What is in the jaws? Why does it look like it has no front jaws?
Because it hasn't been modified yet, maybe? I don't know.
No, the YT-1300 off the factory floor had the jaws in it, and this one does not have jaws. Like, when it's flying, there's a piece in the front, like a complete fill-in, which I'm kind of curious how they explain that, because that's not factory.
Well,
Maybe they have cargo. Maybe they're actually hauling cargo with it for once, because he was a smuggler, so.
He was a smuggler, and it is a freighter, so it's a light freighter.
Seeing all those panels actually white, I was like,
yeah, I know. At first,
it's like, wow, that ship was really effing dirty. Somebody needs to clean. Like C-3PO needs a rag and some Pine Sol stat.
Like Han. Actually, I do have a kind of a nitpick about that. Okay, I get the fact that they're trying to show that the Falcon is new, but Han Solo, the character, throughout the Star Wars saga, has loved the Falcon, and he would have let it be in that much of disarray.
Well, I understand after an Episode 7 of disarray because he didn't have the ship, but even in chances are in Episode 4, so like it's probably just aging, and there's nothing with the pads or whatever they have on the walls. So there's probably nothing much you can do about it.
Right.
I mean, it is a working until he ran. I mean, think about it. It was a working smuggling vessel until he met Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So chances are it was just getting, regular use, and he probably would clean it every so often. But then he got tied up with the rebellion and really had to let it go to shit because he didn't have time to deal with it.
But I will say this much from the trailer. They did get the attitude of Han Solo correct, at least from what I saw in it. I may still be on the fence about Aaron Wright playing Han Solo as far as the look is concerned, but he did get the attitude down, at least from what I saw in the thing. And you know what? Kudos to Ron Howard. Absolutely, because you look like you did what we were just talking about in the last segment that we said couldn't be done. You polished the turd.
And you know something else, too? The cool thing is the fact that he is starting as an Imperial pilot means that they could be very possibly bringing some of the original Han Solo legends back into canon. Maybe a modified version, but that's still coming back into canon that he was an Imperial pilot, at least.
Well, I think even with Disney taking the new directions of, or not Disney, but Lucasfilm taking the new directions of story, I think there's some things you just have to hold on to. Because of the fact that, like, especially with as a character as beloved as Han Solo, and they're already fighting an uphill battle with trying to get people to believe that this kid is Harrison Ford. You know what I mean? They're already going to have a hard enough time with that.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem we're running into with this, and it's the problem which you're actually describing perfectly and not even realizing about it. Okay, there's a lot of times we get a different actor halfway through a series for whatever reason. Let's not forget Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series, where because the actor who played Dumbledore died and they switched him out to a different actor. Yes, the person looked different, but at the same time we dealt with it because we knew there was no way that character was continuing on. It is not an uncommon thing to actually take that character just because, like, either age restraints or whatever else, and turn around and go, okay, well, we'll use this person instead. I mean, if you use the same... So, I'm okay with it because I know that restriction within Hollywood. It's hard to do that. And to do an entire movie with a CGI overlay of a young Harrison Ford probably would have made the movie 20, ton more expensive, and it would have looked fake. Because we remember how amazingly even Peter Cushing looked, considering that dude's been dead since the early 80s. However, you could still tell it was CGI. And it kind of, for some fans in Rogue One, it ruined the experience for them because they could tell it was CGI, even though it's by far the best CGI work I've ever seen in any movie.
Oh, absolutely. When it comes to Rogue One, the two biggest CGIs was Tarkin and a young Leia.
I mean, the young Leia was literally for 30 seconds, and that was passable, and that was actually a lot more... The Leia was believable because they had the lighting right. I think that was part of it.
See, I would have gone the opposite way. I think Tarkin looked better than Leia.
Well, the problem with Tarkin, which reason he looked
so
fake...
Which I would have said lighting, because Tarkin, with the exception of a few areas where they got a little too much light on his face where you could see the dead eyes, which is really what took you out from the CGI Tarkin. You could tell the eyes weren't eyes.
Well, also the mouth, if you notice how when he talked, it was very stiff and very robotic how he talked. You can tell it was a CGI model how he talked, because the lips, when you talk, your lips move a certain way.
Right.
And and really, he was very stiff when it came to that, and that was what was really his dead giveaway. That and his eyes that were pretty inanimate and dead.
But with Leia, I think she was a little too lit up, where Tarkin, I think a lot of his imperfections was hidden in the fact that they were smart enough to put a lot of his shots in shadow. You know what I mean? But either way, you and I are still on the same page, regardless of which one was better. It was the best CGI you have ever freaking seen in a movie.
I mean, before that, as far as CGI goes, I mean, they did amazing work in Marvel, but I still have to give it for a time frame versus like CGI quality. Before Rogue One came out, keep in mind, because Rogue One takes #1 spot, so now my #2 spot would still have to go to the original Jurassic Park. The CGI work in that movie for 1994. So we're talking 24 years ago that movie came out. Still to this day, go put in that movie. It's still spectacular for this day.
And I urge Star Wars fans, besides the CGI, I urge Star Wars fans, and I'm guilty of this too. I have to remind myself of this as well. We are attached to the character of Han Solo. We are attached to the character being portrayed by Harrison Ford. But let us remember that as much as we hated the prequel trilogy, one of the things we absolutely sang the praises about was Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ewan McGregor is not Alec Guinness. He stepped into the role basically the same way as Alden Ehrenreich is doing now with Han Solo. Give him a chance. He may actually be your next Ewan McGregor, giving you an expanded possibility of the character. I'm not saying he's definitely going to do it, but we don't know yet.
I need to see Ewan McGregor come back into a Star Wars movie, personally, speaking of that.
Well, I mean, the next Star Wars saga is supposed to be Kenobi. It would be a mistake if they didn't get him to do it, especially since he wants to do it.
I know, because he is Kenobi to us, and the time frame they could do Kenobi, considering that most of his life from being a Padawan is already covered in a trilogy, it would be kind of sensible to do that time in between the collapse of the Republic to Old Man Ben. And he's the right age. He's the right age right now.
Oh, yeah. And
Disney, don't fuck this up.
It really, really, really can be a Star Wars version of Logan. Like, it doesn't have to be space battles, galaxy far, far away. Have Obi-Wan, a broken man, dealing with the fact that his friends are dead, the Jedi are gone, and he's stuck in isolation, dealing with those types of problems while looking after this young kid, Luke Skywalker, and keeping him safe from the Empire, from the rising and emerging Empire. That's enough of a story for us.
And knowing that he is target numero, like number one, if he's ever discovered.
Right.
Because the biggest ally they had, if you remember after Episode 3, was the fact that Vader really didn't know those children survived.
Right.
At that point. I mean, he knew eventually, but upon a time, he didn't know. He only knew about Luke even at the beginning. The only fact I guess he read into Luke's mind. I guess when he was like, "Sister."
Well, actually, it was explained in the comics. I don't remember from the Legends how he originally learned it, but in the comics, after Luke destroyed the Death Star, Vader was obsessed with finding out who the pilot was that was so strong with the Force that destroyed the Death Star, and hired Boba Fett to find out. Boba was the one that uncovered that his name was Luke Skywalker, and he was the son of Padme. And Vader actually went to go see Padme's grave and the mortician that, later to rest, to discover that she had actually given birth to his child, but still never knew that, they were twins.
And plus, Leia never had the Skywalker last name, so
right.
She took the Organa last name from House Organa in Alderaan, which really kind of kept her under the radar more so, and allowed her to rise to her own greatness in the political circuit.
So they do explain that out. Vader had no clue of Luke's existence until Luke got involved with the fight. And even then, he didn't know that was Luke until Boba Fett uncovered that information. So, all in all, great storyline that can be told very deeply in Obi-Wan. But after Obi-Wan and Episode 9, what's next for Star Wars? Well, we know we're getting a trilogy from Rian Johnson.
9-Nub trilogy. Make it happen.
9-Nub trilogy. Admiral 9-Nub. There ain't nobody else in his way. Lieutenant Commander to Admiral 9-Nub. We got to replace Akbar.
Or how about Darth 9-Nub?
No, I don't want 9-Nub going Darth. No. Let Poe Dameron go, or let Rose go Darth, because I want to watch her die. I hate that character worse than Jar Jar Binks. I'm sorry. I really do. If there was one walk away from Last Jedi I did not like, it was Rose. I would have been happier with Paige surviving and Rose being the one dying in the in the bombing sequence. Spoilers.
Well, if you haven't got your ass out to see the movie yet, go on, get your ass to go see the movie, because there's no excuses at this point. It's coming out of the theaters, guys. Go freaking see it.
Yeah, isn't it next month it comes out on Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Yeah, March. March it comes
And I
out on
will
Blu-ray.
be buying it as soon as it comes out.
Oh yeah, the day it comes out. But the big news today, announced from Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, guys that are fans of the Game of Thrones TV show on HBO. The producers, D.B. Benioff and, or I'm sorry, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, have been tasked by Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy to produce their own and write their own Star Wars trilogy to be coming out after they are finished with season 8 of Game of Thrones. This trilogy will have nothing to do with the Skywalker saga and will not tie into the Rian Johnson saga. Christina, first, two questions. Two very big questions here. One, how excited to know that we have another trilogy coming from the creators of the TV series of Game of Thrones. I want to
I
make
hope
that clear.
it's not written like Game of Thrones, because then you're just not going to want to get attached to any characters whatsoever. Because they're all, you would know they'll all die. Oh, that's my new favorite character, and they're dead.
We'll get into that.
But
And
but no, I'm actually excited because these guys are very. I mean, as far as like that more darker style of, of series, or, I mean, they've excelled at it. I mean, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones. Game of Phones.
Game of Phones.
Game of Phones.
Dun, 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 dun.
But no, Game of Thrones, I mean, that's been a highly successful series on HBO. It's very well directed, very well produced. I mean, it's yet again, like HBO's been hitting it out of the park for a little bit, same with Stars, but it's, and
Evil
it's
Dead,
kind of,
Evil Dead season 3. Yay. Sorry, you said Stars. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's why I was going with it. I mean, you gotta love a series that starts off with him like freaking putting a girdle on.
I'm just happy they were doing a season 3. I didn't think they were going to.
But anyway, let's
because of the
get
way
back
they ended
to it.
season 2. So
I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm curious to see which way they're going to go with it. Are they going to just hash off more of these stories we don't need, or are they going to go with some new? Are they going to go with? I think what they would be perfect at doing is bringing in some of the old Republic stuff.
that was going to be my second question.
I
What are
really-
the chances? What are the chances that that the trilogy that Weiss and Benioff will be doing will be an old Republic?
If it
Trilogy.
is, one word: Revan. Revan. Make Revan happen. Revan is such a fucking awesome story in the Star Wars galaxy. Revan is, if you think about it, I love the whole Revan series. He needs to be canon again. I mean, so make it happen.
Well, first off, Revan was supposed to become canon. Dave Filoni was tasked to bring Kevin. Kevin. Bring Kevin.
The minion?
Revan.
The kid?
yeah,
What,
Ke-
the minion?
the minion. Kevin. Yeah.
Banana!
Again, I'm fucking doing it again. Revan, the character, into Star Wars, the Clone Wars. And unfortunately, Lucasfilm had canceled the series before Revan was completed, but they had a storyline to make him canon. He was supposed to be a flashback thing, but it was to make him canon into Star Wars. So Revan's only a matter of time, but with Weiss and Benioff, again, looking at the way they do Game of Thrones, and I know Game of Thrones was written originally by George R.R. Martin, but the way they have presented like the character of Jon Snow within these last 7 seasons, and the way they teased non-book readers about how whether Snow was important or not important, whether he died or alive, I can't think of anybody better to bring Revan to the big screen than these two guys. So absolutely, Old Republic needs to happen, and it has to be these guys that do it. Now, as far I stated this to,
Or my other choice, if it's not Old Republic, is bring the Rogue Squadron series back. We had Rogue One. You have a perfect jump-off point to bring in Rogue Squadron.
I think I would rather see Rogue Squadron as a one-off movie than a trilogy,
Right,
because
there's like 8 books in the series. It's very easy to take it as a trilogy of movies. And it would be a lead off of Rogue One, where it would make sense to be another set of movies, which is loosely tied in with the honor, naming the squadron Rogue Squadron in because of Rogue One and the sacrifices they made to secure the plans to the Death Star.
I'll tell you what. Now it's kind of off.
Stardust.
It's kind of off topic a little bit, but I absolutely would love to see one Star Wars story spinoff, since they tied it all in, and that is clone Captain Rex.
That would be interesting as well.
Since I just thought about this, since they did make him the bearded guy in the Battle of Endor, the unnamed trooper in the Battle of Endor, and decided that he was Rex, still fighting for the rebellion, even in Episode 6. I would love to see the time frame of Rex's still being a part of the rebellion behind the scenes between Episodes 4 and 5, leading up to the Battle of Endor.
I mean, we do know that Rex was one of the clones that didn't obey Order 66 anyway. There were several clones that did not do this, and Rex was one of them, where he tried to save some of the Jedi from being cut down.
That's what I'm saying. So I would love to see a story of Rex's time after Rebels before Return of the Jedi. You know what I mean? I think that would be an interesting story.
That would.
As far as Rogue Squadron, I stand where I stand with it because of the fact that the one thing that separates Star Wars from other science fiction, which I know they're more science fantasy than science fiction, but the one thing that separates Star Wars from Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica or Avatar or Alien is the Force, the Jedi, the Sith, the lightsaber battles. I don't think a trilogy of fighter squadrons would be as appealing to the average Star Wars fan as a trilogy of, like we were saying, a trilogy of Revan.
I didn't say you didn't have to have Jedi in it, but at the same time, I will say this for the record. You say that, but when Star Wars Galaxies came out back in 2003, which was a massive multiplayer online RPG, they did not have Jedi as a starting class. To become a Jedi, you really had to go the extra mile. I mean, it took a long time to become a Jedi. Yeah, that game was insanely popular, even though that was a prerequisite. So the Star Wars fans have proven that just because something does not have a Jedi in it, it can still be very popular. Same thing with Rogue One. Rogue One isn't focused around any Jedi whatsoever, yet it's still insanely, even though it is surrounded by...
I argue the point that Chirrut was a Jedi. He may not have been trained, but he was a Jedi.
I'm sure he was Force sensitive, but he wasn't a Jedi as far as that's concerned, because he had to be able to use the Force to see, because we know he was blind.
Mm-hmm.
Even from his little funny comment when they put the bag over his head. Are you kidding me? I'm blind!
But I think the first test of... I agree with you. I mean, we know in the books, we know in the comics, and we know in some of the video games, including what we're talking about with Revan. Revan came from Knights of the Old Republic, which was a video game which your character is Revan, by the way. Spoilers for a 30-year-old game.
How dare you spoil a 30-year-old game?
Your character doesn't start off as a Jedi. It starts off as a smuggler or a soldier or a scoundrel. Those were your three choices, which I always found funny. Scoundrel and smuggler. Isn't that the same goddamn thing?
Pretty much.
But regardless of which, you start off as a gun-toting normal person until you discover that you're a Jedi or that you have Force sensitivity. And then later the story progresses that you're Revan and you had your mind erased. Blah, 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 blah. Spoilers. But
stop with the spoilers. You're going to ruin it for these people who want to play this game.
But I think our first real test of a Star Wars film being able to be as generally accepted without the Jedi or the presence of the Force in it, I would have to say the one that looks like it, at least anyway, would be Solo. Because at this point, yeah, we know the Empire's in it, but Vader's not. At least I hope he's not.
I don't think. I think that would be a huge disservice to the movie if they brought Vader in.
I think Vader needs to be mentioned, but I don't think we physically need to have Vader
or Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah,
he's a smuggler. I mean, at this point, in the storyline, because it is the beginning of Solo, I will say this for the record, it is, the beginnings of his career. He's a lowly smuggler, nothing more, who betrayed the Empire. The most he's going to deal with is dealing with a freaking destroyer once in a while, or dealing with a blockade. So, no, that would be a bad move.
There are certain things certain story beats I want hit and hit right. Two story beats that I want done right. Han winning the sabacc game that gained him the Falcon must be done correctly. And Han saving Chewie's life, which is why Chewie owed him a life debt. Those 2 points must be done. As long as they don't do those two things right, I'll pretty much accept pretty much anything they want to do in the movie. But those 2 points have to be right.
I mean, especially because in Episode 5, they did mention the sabacc game as well. That cost Lando the Falcon and awarded it to Han. So the fact that if they change that at this point, you're completely going to have so much shit to retcon, it's not even going to be funny.
Mm-hmm. I will accept whatever they want to do in this film as long as those 2 points are hit right. That's my feeling. I mean, you guys have a different feeling. Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear what you got to say. But also, how you feeling about Weiss and Benioff? I still think, and I stated this in the private chat that we all have when the news first broke. I stated this to one of our fans, Richard J. I know you're watching this right now. If Weiss and Benioff do an Old Republic story, in my mind, and guys, leave your comment down below whether you agree or disagree. I think this is Star Wars' chance to finally get the elusive Best Picture or Best Director out of the Academy Awards. I don't think we'd have a better chance than these two guys if they even do a tenth of what they did with Game of Thrones.
Are you just saying that because you're a huge Game of Thrones fan?
It's not just because I'm a Game of Thrones fan. I am a fan of what they did with this franchise, with the filming. I mean, come on, the Battle of the Bastards. If we can have a tenth of that in Star Wars, the intensity of the Battle of the Bastards scene, and what was that, season 6? Yeah, season 6, episode 9, or like the Blackwater battle, in season 2. You let these guys do stuff like that in Star Wars, and you're telling me that wouldn't get hellacious critical acclaim?
Oh, I know, because everyone loves a good battle. Like a lot of people's favorite scene in Episode 1 was the Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan battle. A lot of times, people's favorite scenes in any Star Wars movie are the lightsaber battles and of course the full-on fighter battles. Those are the 2 favorite scenes. Everything else is just build up to that stuff. But let me see the fight for the fight to save the remote moon base in Episode 4. The whole freaking Darth Maul battle. Done the Duel of the Fates, which at Corn on the Cob. That video completely ruined me, by the way.
Yes, it did.
The Battle of Mustafar, even Episode 3 with all its issues, the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, on Mustafar, absolutely insane battle. The battle when you see Yoda finally pull up a lightsaber in Episode 2, and you're just sitting there like, wow, okay. Episode 5, the beginning of Episode 5, when you've got that assault on the Hoth base. Episode 6, when you've got the battle over the moon of Endor. Episode 7, the whole assault on Starkiller Base. I've pretty much listed them all, but I can keep going. Well,
we can. The way to drive your point home would be Episode 8. I don't agree with it, but there's a lot of hatred for the Last Jedi. However, the throne room scene, where Kylo and Rey work together to fight those Gregorian guards, is universally praised by so many people.
That's an amazing scene. I even like the Sandspeeder scene where they were fighting with the beat-up old, probably centuries-old Sandspeeders.
You had to bring that up. That's probably the one scene that I absolutely hated the most in that film. I hated Rose saving Finn. It cheapened that sacrifice moment. I really thought that was the hero moment for Finn. I'm still mad about
Well, you
that.
know something, I will say this for the record. There's a reason they could have let Finn die, but they didn't. So I'm curious to see what direction they're going in, why they decided it was a necessary point to keep Finn alive.
Well, I'm pretty sure the necessary point is so that way Finn could become a hero. Because right now the story arc of Finn is he's still very much a coward, and him giving that sacrifice, which is why I thought it was so beautiful, and his battle with Phasma, and right in the words that he's rebel scum. It was him finally accepting the fact that I need to step up for the people I care about and the things that I believe in, rather than just run away from my problems and hide it under concern for Ray or fear of the First Order, which was always his excuses. Like, yes, we know he loves Ray, and yes, we know he knows the might of the First Order, but he was running because he was scared. He was just using them as catalysts to justify his actions until he finally turned around and said, somebody's got to do this. And he was stepping up. Them keeping him on, the only way I could justify that is him stepping up from that point on and being a leader within the resistance community. But no, I enjoyed that. Again, the that and the whole entire in my point in my mind frame the misplaced joke of you're getting into that tense scene. The speeders are coming down. The sand skippers and Poe's giving that inspirational speech about like we got to hold them back and protect the base, and he puts his foot through the freaking panel.
See, I don't think it was misplaced, and I'll explain why. Because it actually did demonstrate how it's easy to say, hey, this thing is just, these things are hundreds of years old, and you just take it for word. However, something that old would be falling apart, and that's what they tried to show with that panel popping off like that. So I didn't mind the scene because I understood that it helped show that these whatever sand rails, whatever the hell you want to call them, they were pretty much falling apart.
I think they were mono skis.
Yeah, I think so. But they were just falling apart.
I mean, I get that, and I agree with you. Like it served a purpose. I just felt it was misplaced because it was meant as humor in a tense situation. I think the message could have been just as described as they're skipping down the sand, having parts falling off of them. We didn't necessarily have to have Poe interrupt his speech and giving his commands, going, "What the hell?"
Well,
You know
that
what I mean?
also was an Easter egg and a nod to Paul Walker, right?
Well, I'm one of the people that I'm sorry for the loss of Paul Walker, but I hated the Fast and Furious franchise. So
See, that I was just saying that was a nod towards Paul Walker because in the first Fast and Furious, he had the Mitsubishi Eclipse that during the first race, he kind of ignored his computer. Apparently, yelling at a computer, slamming it down, stops your car blowing up. But he was moving so fast at one point that he had these diamond plate floorboards that literally popped off the car as he was driving because the car was moving so fast apparently that it causes bolts to break. But that's kind of was like the nod towards that as well. I feel
okay,
there's no verification of that, but that's what I feel at this point because it would make sense.
okay. Well, I can justify that. I mean, as not a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, I wouldn't have caught that as an Easter egg. To me, it was just a misplaced joke.
I mean, you can look
But
it up on YouTube, see that one part, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
right. So if that was the reason for it, I could be a little bit more forgiving of it, personally. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad scene. There's like you're stating yourself, you enjoyed it. So obviously, this is just my personal preference and opinion, of that particular moment. I felt that the levity was misplaced because I wanted the tension at that point. You know what I mean? I wanted to feel the desperation of the resistance trying to make a Custer's last stand with this base, you know, and at that point, it's like I don't really want the jokes. I just want the action. You
We're
know?
at 55 minutes, by the way.
All right. Well, with breaking the fourth wall here, we're going to go ahead and well, we got a couple things we need to discuss real quick. Christina, you wanna bring these up? You brought these to the table. We
No,
kind
you
of
can
went.
bring him up. You're the host.
All right. Well, we do have a death to discuss. Unfortunately, I don't have the notes up with me to remember his name, but the father of Frasier, in the TV show Frasier, unfortunately has passed away at the age, I believe, of 77. So, unfortunately, our thoughts and
Fraser, and
condolences.
he was also a member of the Steppenwolf Theater
Yes,
as
Steppenwolf
well.
Theater.
So we also have to add that. We have to add that in there as well.
Maloney or Mahoney, I forget. I
Yeah,
think what's his last
yeah.
name. I forgive me. I don't have the notes in front of me for the name. I never knew him personally. I never knew him other than Frasier's dad, and I was never a big, huge fan of the TV show Frasier. But when I did watch it, I always got a kick out of him and his dog. So to me, that right there is just that's a mark to him right there that I would even remember him in a show I didn't care for all too much as a great actor, truly a legend lost in my mind. Uh, what other news did we have that we wanted to discuss? I forgot. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Let's take this last couple minutes. Normally we would do movie picks of the week, and we're going to forego that this week because we have huge news here in Realm of the Mist. We are starting a new show called Talking Trek. No, I'm kidding. There is a new show going to be released by this person right here, Miss that trans geek girl herself, and that is
Archives.
Dystopian Archives. This is a spin-off, I think. Would you call it a spin-off of Geek Girl, or is it going to be its
It's
own
kind of
stand?
under its umbrella of Trans Geek Girl, but it's its own show.
Okay. It's gonna be a standalone under the umbrella of that trans geek girl, dealing with talking about dystopian futures and societies and things of that nature. I did do an episode, 2 episodes back of that trans geek girl with Christina, where we discussed one dystopian future reality from video games, which was the Fallout universe and particularly the Vault-Tex uh,
The experiments
vaults
within the vaults.
and their environments. So it kind of gives you an idea of the show, but I'm going to let Christina describe the show because nobody can describe it better than its creator. So, Christina, take it away.
Okay, well, the general preface of the show is outside of the first episode, which will be the introduction episode, so to speak. After that, each episode will cover one dystopian world. So, for example, say episode 2 would cover 1984, and the world that 1984 encompasses. Then the following week I might cover more into like the world of Fallout and the different worlds in Fallout, which or different areas in Fallout, I would say encompasses one episode. I would do one on, say, like the Hunger Games for you younger people, for your young whippersnappers out there, which is
Let
also
me
dystopian. But also the fun part about dystopian stuff as well is it's not just those. I'm also going to be doing an episode, say, on the Alien saga, which is also considered dystopian, surprisingly. But that's nothing to do with, oppressive governments but it's still the scariest environment imaginable if you think about it. And Weyland-Yutani was also would define that as a dystopian, as they ran everything. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be something that not a lot of people have ventured into before. So definitely check it out. We're starting publish probably the end of March, beginning of April, which will be pushing my show Trans Geek Girl back to a bi-weekly at that point. But until then, I'll still be weekly. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be pretty cool just so I can actually talk about all these different worlds, these dystopian worlds. Even Soylent Green I'll touch on one day. I can keep going on. Like, it's my favorite, like, favorite fiction genre. I can speak
well,
today,
well,
but
I will say this much: if you ever do an episode on either the book Battlefield Earth or the book series Dune, I will happily be a special guest on that because I love those series, and I think we could definitely have a great conversation on those. So,
Well,
Christina,
Battlefield Earth would be. Dune, not Dune. I guess would be too. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. So, because it was a very yeah.
whenever we get Kristen Stovall back on the show, I really want to do a show of a who got it right. Uh, as far as like we had this discussion a long time ago, if you remember correctly, of a lot of people compare Lord of the Rings to like Game of Thrones, and I always felt that that was incorrect because Lord of the Rings was more fantasy, Game of Thrones is more political based. You know what I mean? And I feel that the true comparison, even though Game of Thrones, the book series was swords and dragons, it's mostly with a political view. I think it would match up more with the series of Dune, which again was more political than anything else. So I always wanted to have a discussion of who got it right, George R. R. Martin or Frank Herbert.
That'd be kind of interesting. I'm down for that.
So that may be coming in the future. You never know. But definitely check back for that. Dystopian Archives, That Trans Geek Girl, Star Wars Canon Library, After Hours, Talking Trek, and so many other great shows here on Realm of the Mist Entertainment. Make sure you're hitting the little links down below. We'll bring you to the individual channel pages as well as our own page. Christina, tell them where they can find you if they want to talk to you.
You can find me on my channel on YouTube, That Trans Geek Girl. Just search for that because the link is too ridiculous to try to repeat. I'm also on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook at That Trans Geek Girl, which is Christina Talley, which is my fan page, as well as on Twitter as trans_vixen. And I am also on Patreon trying to get, which is Christina Talley, which I'm trying to get to help fund Trans Geek Girl and make it into an even better show.
And of course, if you're watching this video, you already know where to find me. But if you ever want to find me or talk to me, just hit me up on realmofthemist.com. Hit the little email link. It'll bring you right to the email site that I check on a daily basis. So you got questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below or email me and we'll bring them up on the shows. Guys, thank you very much and we'll catch you next time. Go Eagles!
Fly, Eagles, fly.
On the road to victory.
You're going to make me sing this by myself. You're a dick. Bye, y'all.
Later.